The thing that I remember that day is looking up at the sky, and there was a cloud formation in the shape of a high. A few years ago, quite a few years ago, we were young parents. We had 3 young children, and Mark and I often talked about what kind of education we want our children to have. Of course, we wanted them to have the best.
The very first meeting of Heschel Day School
Community
meeting was in our home 50 years ago.
In order to start the school, basically, Rabbi Schulweis and I decided that we wanted to check the idea of having a new day school. We connected, or he connected with other rabbis. We started 3 campuses at that time.
And in the beginning, everybody had multiple jobs. I was executive vice president, I was vice president of education, I was vice president of 2 or 3 more duties, and it worked out great. We raised money to buy the property and start to build. And look at it now, wow.
The facilities were nothing. Shirley had her office under the lemon tree. It didn't matter. The program was phenomenal. It was, who cared about whether we had a beautiful facility at that point? The kids were really stimulated. Shirley's philosophy was to educate the whole child.
What you had were parents who had this incredible vision of what they wanted in education for their children. And they were very Jewishly involved and committed. So it wasn't about running away from something, it was about going towards something.
The year I started, we were actually over to Daughtry Temple. And so I was, of course, teaching, and then we also started our sports teams at that time too. And during that time, there had been a lot of talk about actually buying property for Heschel. And it was probably about a year or 2 after I started where they actually had bought the property here at Northridge, 17701 Devonshire Street. Never forget that, in Northridge. And it was just really special for all of us as teachers. It was just such a special opportunity to be a part of that.
I think the main thing that evolved was that we went from campus to campus. I was at a Daughtry first, and then I took the middle school to Valley Beth Shalom, and then to Temple Beth Hillel. And from there, the parents, the push that they had, they wanted a middle school. They were very strong in believing that we should do this. And I think that as parents and fundraisers, that they were able to build the school was remarkable. They looked for property all over the place. There were a few people that were just very committed.
Our school was founded in 1972, and our first name was New Valley
Jewish Day School.
Jewish Day School. One day we were in Temple, Mark and I, Friday night at Valley Beth Shalom. Abraham Joshua Heschel had just passed away after we founded the school. And Rabbi Schulweis started speaking about Heschel. And after he was talking about him, Mark and I turned to one another and went, wow, he was such an amazing person.
And they said, this is the person, someone who has this sense of lofty Judaic values, but can bring that down to earth and integrate it into social justice and social action, who really spans that whole gamut. And so that was great good fortune, that was the personality, and that those were the values around which the school coalesced.
When Heschel finally was breaking ground here in Northridge and was going to build this magnificent school, Shirley brought me here, and you had modules all over the land. You had little trailers that we would go into, and school was being conducted for the elementary school in these trailers while we were getting ready to build this land. The excitement was palpable.
I think that it was important. It gave you a sense of community, and it gave you a sense of being part of something bigger than you are. And you gave a lot of yourself, but the parents and the students and the staff gave so much back to you that it was just incredible. It was a very special feeling.
We marched in here with the Torah, with the tallit over our heads, and carried the Torah into this place and dedicated this spot of land to the education of our children.
And years later, someone said to me, you know, you can tell if an institution is really solid and viable if everyone from the maintenance staff to the administration can articulate the same vision of what this school or this business or, you know, this enterprise is about. And that was consistent because people could tell the same story and have the same passion for it.
Each decade, the parents of the school and the administration and the board of directors, they found a way to all be pioneers. At the very beginning in 1972, it was a group of parents who literally built a school from scratch. Not so much building the school with bricks, but building a school with emotion, with ruach, with spirit, and with a vision. Then in 1978, we came here on campus, 17701 Devonshire. For a couple years, we were in trailers. I remember in 4th or 5th grade, while playing on the yard, I would look to my right and see the school literally growing from the ground. One day, the trailers actually became the yard, and what we were sitting on now was being built, and we watched that when we were on the trailers. And then it was 1982 when this school actually was what we know of today. And of course, along the way, there's been many upgrades. For example, where I'm sitting right now, the Beit Midrash that was built in the 90s. This was an outside courtyard, and look where we are today. It's one of the most beautiful Beit Midrash that we could ever think of. It was tremendous that when they built the Beit Midrash, they decided to name it after Shirley Levine, our founding head of school, who truly built the school and partnered with the board and had a vision for what Heschel would become. Look, today we've had over 150 students whose parents also went to Heschel. Currently we have 73 current students whose parents went to Heschel. We're living Lador Vador every day from generation to generation. I hope the founding parents, I hope the founding staff, I hope everyone who was here in the 70s really could understand what they built, that 50 years later we're living in Lador Vador from generation to generation.